So welcome back to the Expert Edge. Today we are talking about a momentum mindset. If you've found yourself a little bit stuck or not in momentum, today's going to help you out a lot. I know for me, a lot of the times I look for podcasts that get me into the right mindset. I listen to podcasts a lot when I'm driving or walking. This is going to be one of those podcasts today. It's going to get you in a really good mindset to make you feel even more confident and rock solid focused for the week to come. So let's get you into momentum. Hey, it's Colin, and you are listening to the Expert Edge podcast. I was a professional speaker for over a decade, and now I focus on helping coaches, speakers, and course creators to speak and sell on virtual and live stages. The Expert Edge podcast is weekly content focused on helping you build your expert business. We cover marketing, storytelling, sales, communication skills, and so much more. Thanks for taking the time to tune in, and make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode. So let's have a conversation about a momentum mindset and why a momentum mindset is so powerful when it comes to building your coaching business. You see, I don't know about you, where you're at right now, but you could be in a spot where you're feeling like your business is struggling, or maybe it's a Monday morning. It's probably not, because we release on a Tuesday. Maybe it's a Tuesday morning and you're still kind of trying to work yourself up for the week. Or you find yourself in a place where you just are having this conversation with yourself going, is this ever going to work? Like, am I ever going to make this work? I know I've been in that place many times. I've been running my coaching business full time now for about 16 years. And I've had seasons where things have been a challenge, been a struggle. But this is what I know, is that what I'm going to share with you today, there's 3 ideas to really capitalize and create a momentum mindset. This is what happens. When you're in a momentum mindset, opportunities open up where you weren't expecting. You get phone calls for people to want to book you to speak or be a part of an event or speak at an event. You get clients opening up, emailing to you, coming in the door that weren't expected. I know for me, when I'm in a momentum mindset, there is an energetic attraction that just happens. And have you noticed that? There are some people that it's like no matter what they do, it just turns to gold or it kind of seems like it. Yes, there are a lot of mechanics to that in terms of strategy. But I also think there is an energetics that goes along with it. And if your energetics is off, you're not going to attract the type of people, the type of clients that you want, or create the type of income that you desire in your business. And so today's conversation, I want to share with you 3 ideas that will help you to get into a momentum mindset. When I first started my coaching business, one of the decisions that I made was that I wanted to be a full-time coach. Now, at the time, my only model of what coaching looked like as an expert was one-on-one coaching. That was really like all I'd seen. There was, at the time, like masterminds weren't really even a thing, or group coaching wasn't even really spoken about. There was no online courses. It was like one-on-one coaching, or it was keynote speaking, or doing some like workshops and training days and things like that. Like that was kind of the model that I'd seen, right? And I know for me at the time, I had decided that I wanted to be a full-time coach. So I decided from the outset that I was always going to be fully booked. Now, that didn't necessarily mean I was fully paid, but I decided I was going to be fully booked. One thing I've noticed is that if you want to get something done, you give it to what? You give it to a busy person, right? If you want to not get something done, you give it to someone who's got nothing on because busy people get stuff done. And what I've noticed is that for me, when I was busier doing client work, whether I was getting paid or not, I would attract more work and eventually attract more income. And so one of the decisions that I made was whether I was getting paid or not, I would always have a set amount of coaching clients. Now, this was back in the day when I used to, want to get one-on-one coaching clients, right? And so for me, in my mind, I just said, I want at least 8 coaching clients at a time. So let's say 2 of them were paying me. I would have 6 free coaching clients on at the time. Now, obviously, I'd still have enough space to be able to do work and get clients and market my business. But there was something energetically about having a full coaching practice, right? Having a client load. Now, you can interpret that in these days however you like. Maybe you don't want to do one-on-one coaching, but maybe you want to have people in a coaching group. Maybe it's a group coaching thing. And so if you don't have any paying clients yet, like start a free one. Like start one where they don't pay, they just have to show up, right? And it's like 6 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that, which is sometimes referred to as a beta. We refer to that as a beta coaching group inside of Sell From Stage Academy. But what I'm saying is there is something about doing work that creates work. Does that make sense? So even if you're not charging for the work, even if you're giving away your time, especially right at the start, when I didn't have enough work on, I would give away my time. Like I would give something valuable. Now, what always happened was when I gave something valuable and even something somewhat, to me, it was at the time very unscalable. What happened was people wanted to give me money. So at the end of the free coaching sessions, they would almost always, like 50% of the time, say, hey, I'd love to keep going. This has been amazing. What would it look like? And then I would be able to move them into a paying client. And so what I'm saying here is there is something energetic about momentum. There is something about having momentum in your business. And I know the Good to Great book talks about this idea of the flywheel. And the flywheel is like this big wheel that kind of takes a while to spin, but once it starts spinning, it just shoots off opportunities and momentum. And that's what happens in your business. So if you're sitting there with no clients or very few clients, I would even suggest take on some free clients to just get some momentum. And there is something that happens energetically. And what happens is your confidence increases. This is one of the biggest things. One of the biggest things that makes you so attractive as a coach, as an expert, is your personal confidence. What I'm saying here is that when you don't have enough work on, if you're in a struggling season, what happens is your personal confidence drops a lot of the time. Does that make sense? And so when you take on a client load, it increases your confidence. It gives you more evidence that you're good at what you do. And then that results into getting more paid clients. I want to share that as a bit of a frame. Now, I saw this. It was actually really cool. I don't know if you watch. You may or may not. Watch baseball, but the World Series was just played between Los Angeles and New York. It was like a classic payoff, the Dodgers versus the Yankees. And I watched every game. There was one particular batter. His name's Freddie Freeman. And I'm pretty sure he hit a home run in every single game. Like he set a new record in terms of consecutive home runs hit. And he wasn't even like the biggest batter. In fact, the superstars of the team didn't really do much. And what happened was Freddie ended up finding himself in this momentum mindset. He found himself in this momentum pocket. And it was like energetically, whenever he stepped up to the bat, it was funny. Like people literally had signs from New York saying, like, take it easy on us, Freddie. Just like, don't swing too hard for us. So it was kind of like a quirky example of someone who was in momentum. Does that make sense? And when you're in momentum, he ended up winning MVP, right? Most valuable player for the World Series. And I think a lot of it was he was just in this mindset of, I frigging hit grand slams. Like I hit home runs. That's what I do. And so I want you to think about that mindset as you build your business, because you might be in a mindset of, whenever I step up to the plate, I strike out, right? But I want to switch your mindset today and be like, whenever I step up to the plate, I hit home runs. I hit grand slams. Like I'm a big hitter in my space. And that's the mindset I want you to have. So one of the first ways to do that is to find the gain. Find the gain. There's a great book, which I recommend you to read. It's called The Gap and the Gain. And it's funny. It's like an entire book around one principle. And it's with Dan Sullivan. It's Dan Sullivan's principle. And it was co-written with another author as well, with Dan. But it's Dan Sullivan's principle, the gap and the gain. And essentially, the principle is that for most entrepreneurs, we naturally focus on the gap. The gap is the difference between where you are now and where you want to be in the future, right? So let's say your current business, you're making $10,000 a month and you have your goal being $100,000 a month. Your focus will usually be on the difference between where you are or where you want to be, right? So there's this perpetual experience, this perpetual feeling of you're not enough, or you're not doing enough, or you're not achieving enough, or there's a gap, right? That's the gap between where you are and where you want to be in the future. Now, is that powerful? Yes, I think that is powerful to know, to have a goal to focus on and have a plan and all that sort of stuff. But Dan proposes the idea that it's more useful to not just have that goal, like, yes, have a goal, but to actually spend more time on focusing on the gain. And the gain is actually looking backwards. And the gain is basically saying, where were you previously compared to where are you now? So in other words, what are the gains you've made in your business or in your life? Now, I practically do this when I do my elite coaching calls with my elite implementation group. Every other week, I'm jump on, and all the experts and clients and stuff jump on, and I ask them a question, which is, what has been a win personally or professionally, or both, right? What's been a win? And everyone puts in the chat, it goes on fire. Everyone, okay, I'm working on this. I've had a win on this. It could be really small. Like, it doesn't have to be a massive win. Just something you've made a gain on. And there is something about that energetically that helps you to get into a confident mindset because you feel like you're making progress. And I know Tony Robbins talks a lot about the idea of the cornerstone of happiness is progress. In fact, I've found that you reach a goal, whenever you hit a goal, I've hit some big goals in my life, and you get there, and to be frank, even big goals where I've like hit a massive goal and I've gone, yes, I felt good for a minute, but usually forgot to celebrate it, right? Didn't even have time to celebrate it, even though I wanted to. And then you just on to the next thing, right? And so I want to remind you that I know many of you have this mindset of, oh man, when I hit $100,000 a month, like everything's going to be completely different and easy or comfortable. And let me just tell you, it won't be because I'm at that. I'm actually well beyond that. But I'm like, there's just another level. There's another level of complexity. There's another level of costs and investment. There's another level of growth, right? And then you're going to be going, okay, I want to hit the next level. Maybe it's 200,000, 300,000 a month. And so I want to remind you to learn to love the progress. And how do you love the progress? Well, you focus on the gain. And you answer that question. I even recommend you to answer it every single day of like, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, what has been a win? What has been some progress? What has been something that has moved me forward? In fact, I do the 5-minute journal. I do it quite often, not every day, but most days. And it's got a few questions. I'll read them out. The 5-minute journal. I think it's just 5minutejournal.com. You can check that out. It's like a physical book. And the first question, it says, I am grateful for, and you write what you're grateful for, right? What would make today great? I love that question. What would make today great? So it's like you just write down a few actions, and then daily affirmation, which is like, who are you as a person? I am, right? And so it has those 3 questions at the top, and then it's got some night questions, which is highlights of the day. What's been a great thing about today? And what did you learn today? I love that. Super simple. It literally takes less than 5 minutes to do each day. 5-minute journal. Love that as a physical book. I've used that for years, actually. That helps me get in the game. So the first thing is I want you to focus on, ask yourself the question, have I been mainly focused on the gap? And if you've been mainly focused on the gap, what would it look like to be focused on the gain? What gains have you made in your life? The second idea, and to get into a momentum mindset, is to try on an identity. There's a frame in coaching which is called act as if. The act as if frame essentially says that you can act as if you are a certain person already before you're that person. When I was learning about coaching, one of the metaphors they used was basically like trying on a sweater, right? So you just put on a sweater. In fact, I'm wearing a sweater right now. If you end up watching this on our YouTube channel. And I don't normally wear sweaters. So there you go. Must have just been the day. It is coming into fall, so it's getting a little bit cold here. But try on the sweater, right? The sweater is, you can try it on, and if it doesn't fit or if you don't like it, you can just take it off, right? It's not the end of the world. But most people think, they're like, no, this is who I am. I am this type of person, right? And they get stuck in this mindset of, even like permission. They tell themselves, I don't have permission I don't have permission to speak on stage. I don't have permission. I'm not good enough to run a webinar. I'm not good enough to call myself an expert, right? And what happens is when you act as if you're that old person or you act in that old story, you're wearing an old sweater. What if that old story is just a sweater? Because so often we go, no, that's who I am. Colin, this is who I am. I'm sorry, this is just who I am. It's actually not. It is the programming that you've had from your upbringing, from the environment you've been in, from the programs and coaching or lack of coaching you've had in your life. It's just a programming. And it's got you to a point where you believe that that is who you are. But what if it was just a sweater? What if it was just a sweater that you've learnt to put on and have comfortable in, and you can actually take it off? In fact, many of you, that sweater has become too small, hasn't it? It's become uncomfortable. It's become worn. There's holes in it. It's actually time to put on a new sweater. And so this idea is essentially saying, if you were to act as if you were that person already, the person that you want to be, right? The person that you know you can be, how would that person act? And you can literally think of a person, like maybe there's a person you look up to. You probably instantly think about me. I know. No, I'm joking. You may not. But do you? Seriously? Like you think about someone who you look up to, someone who you're like, okay, if I was that person, how would that person act today? If I was that person, how would that person feel today? How would that person act today despite their feelings? What would that person be thinking about today? What would that person be focusing on today? I know for me, whenever I went to a whole new level in my business, a whole new level in my income, I asked myself that question: how would that person act, right? If you want to run $1 million business, you have to ask yourself, how would $1 million coach act today? What decisions would they make? What would they focus on? Where would they spend their time? That's a big one. In fact, over the weekend, I just got back. We went to Six Flags over the weekend on Sunday, and I also went to Universal. I went to Universal with my family and another family, which was cool. But on Sunday, we went to Six Flags and I just took my son, and he's 12. He's 11, actually. 11, almost 12. What we did is we got the Fast Pass. And the Fast Pass is 3 times the price of the entry to the regular park. But oh my gosh, it is 10 times the value. Because what happens is you literally just book on a ride and you just walk straight to the front while everyone else is lining up for an hour, right? Waiting for a 30-second or a 2-minute ride. We're literally just booking, walking straight to the front, going to the front and getting on. Now, I will say many years ago, I wouldn't have spent that money. And if you're not in the position to spend that money, I totally get it. But it's the principle. The principle is that I've learned that one of the mindset of acting as if, this is when I was learning to be $1 million coach, the mindset of someone who generates more than $1 million in their coaching business is that they are willing to spend money to save time. They are willing to invest money to buy people's expertise. They are willing to put money on the table so that they can get time back in their life. And by the way, that's the type of clients that you want as well. I know for me, my highest level clients that I occasionally do some coaching with, money is less important than time to them. Like they are buying speed. That's why you buy a course. That's why you join a coaching program. That's why you hire a coach. That's why you join a mastermind. Is because the money invested is worth less than the speed, the time, the relationships that you're going to save and create through that experience. Does that make sense? This second idea is trying on a new identity. Right? So try on a new identity, think of it as a sweater. And what if the current identity of who you are is actually not who you are? It's just a sweater that you've learnt to build. You've knitted it yourself. You've knitted it, but what if it's too small right now and you need to try on a new sweater, right? So I want to encourage you to do that. You have full permission to do that. And you don't need my permission, by the way. The final point is anticipate good things. I think a lot of the time when you're not in a momentum mindset, you start anticipating bad things. Have you noticed yourself ever say something like this? It was so funny. You know, when you talk to yourself, like I talk to myself a lot, obviously, I'm not going to a mental ward yet. But I talk to myself, and I remember I caught myself the other day. Something happened, and I was playing out a scenario that actually hadn't happened. In my head, I was like, knowing my luck. And I started saying that phrase. And I was like, oh my gosh, isn't that fascinating, that phrase? Knowing my luck. Have you ever said that? Like maybe something bad happened or something happened not in your favor. And you were like, oh no, I'm knowing my luck. Knowing my luck, that always happens. Or maybe you've heard someone else say, or that always happens to me, right? I wonder if you're telling yourself those things, because what that's doing is it's setting your brain up to notice things that are lacking, to notice things that are going wrong. And it's going to go against creating a momentum mindset. And so one of the things that I remember my wife and I kind of joke about this, because one of my superpowers that I have, and I feel like I've just built this over the years and gradually layered evidence on it, is that when I walk into a room, like when I go to an event, when I walk into a room, my mindset is everyone in this room is going to love me. Gosh, that makes me sound like so pompous, so self-focused. But I say it in it's not that I think I'm better than everyone. I just expect everyone to love me. I'm like, everyone in this room is really going to enjoy a conversation with me, right? That is literally what I think. And I laugh about it because it sounds so funny. Now, by the way, I don't walk into a room and say, hey, you're really going to love this conversation with me. I don't say that. That would just be weird. But in my mind, that is literally my expectations of when I go to a event, when I go to a networking room, when I meet new people, I literally think this person is going to love me. This person is going to really enjoy this conversation. How do you think that impacts my sales conversations? How do you think that impacts when I meet potential joint ventures? How do you think it impacts them? Because energetically, they know, they can feel in me that there is a congruence, that there's an acceptance of myself that they see in me. And that is actually an attractive thing. Just the other day, I was down at Newport Beach. Someone comes up to me randomly. He starts saying this name. It's some famous NFL player. And I have no idea what he's talking about. And he's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's you. And he goes, oh my gosh, I thought I knew you. Now, it's kind of funny, but that's what tends to happen a lot to me. People will literally say, oh my gosh, I thought I knew you. Where have I seen you before? I know you. And I've never met them before and they've never seen me before. But I actually think it's an energetic thing. It's like a belief of there's going to be a congruence, an acceptance, a enjoyment in our experience with each other that happens in me that creates a momentum in relationships. And so I bring this up to ask you, what are you expecting? What are your expectations and what's the language you're using? Are you saying things like, oh, knowing my luck, or, gosh, this always happens to me, or I'm probably going to meet no one I like at this networking event? What are your expectations, right? Because your expectations form the focus that you have in terms of that experience. And so these three things are three ideas that for me have helped me to create a momentum mindset in my business and in my life. And so let's just review them quickly. The first one is to find the gain, right? Find what have you moved from rather than what are you moving to. So just go, where have I had a gain in the last 24 hours? Where's been a gain? Number two is try on a new identity. Try on that sweater. And number three, anticipate good things to happen. Expect people to like you. People are going to like you. Right? How does that feel? Just try that on, even if it feels really weird. Try it on like a sweater, right? Just try it on. If you don't like it, you can take off the sweater. But imagine literally thinking, people are really going to like me when they meet me, right? And it's like I said, it's not an arrogance. It's like a personal acceptance of I'm a good person, right? People are going to really enjoy me. And And when that doesn't happen, it's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with them? Right? Anyway, but this is the mindset that will help you to get into some momentum. Has this been helpful? Has this been useful? Hey, if it has, could you share it with a friend? Hit the share button, text it to a friend, just say, hey, I really enjoyed this. You should check this out. Why don't you share it with a friend? And if you are serious about building a expert business, especially around using presentations, like building a high converting presentation, and you haven't done our online workshop, make sure to go and do our free online workshop. It's on demand. It's about 60 minutes, and I take you through the 5 steps to building a high converting presentation that gets you clients every time you speak. You can check it out. The link's in the show notes, or go to colinboyd.co/workshop. And you can go and register. Like I said, it's completely free. It's an in-depth workshop about how to build a high-converting presentation that gets you clients every single time. Guys, I trust this has been a blessing. Thank you so much for being a part of the Expert Edge, and we'll see you next week.